That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so let's go through. Let's talk about some of our dynasty rankings here. And of course, we're not going to go through every single player. We don't have time to go through every player, so we're going to talk about our Cornerstone rankings. These will be updated over there on Patreon. Hopefully by the time this video comes out. Actually, I can guarantee you by the time this video comes out. But if you are new to this, because I'd imagine you are, we haven't made one of these videos in probably a year. But Cornerstone Dynasty rankings are looking at rookies and sophomores. So those younger players, trying to look at the long-term outlook that you may have from those guys on your team. And we're going to be talking about our top 10 combining the 2020 and 2021 draft classes in about a month, when we have a much better understanding of this 2022 class. I'm probably going to wait for the running back position to at least get the NFL Combine underway, because y'all know that the size, athleticism matters so much for those rookie running backs coming in. Then we can also do this with the 2022 versus 2021 class. So of course, make sure you go down there, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am. You know, I always enjoy reading those. But going back to subscribing to the channel, we've said this in pretty much every single video because it's very important. This is a Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. If you do not play Dynasty Fantasy Football, I'm sorry, this channel is not for you. You can go find something else, but you can enjoy this video, but please don't subscribe. This is only going to be Dynasty Fantasy Football content all offseason, so please only subscribe if you play Dynasty. And also, go over there and check out our Patreon content if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, where you can get into a Dynasty League with us and the other listeners of this channel. You can have access to our Dynasty rankings, get a Fantasy Flock Network hat, get an in-depth podcast breaking down your team, get our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. There's so much stuff going on there. But nonetheless, let's dive into this. Let's bring up our easy running back one, Jonathan Taylor. There's not much to say. With Jonathan Taylor coming out crushing, and I repeat, crushing this season. And I'm not going to lie, we were going through and we were talking some nonsense at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, we were talking about the running back one overall in Dynasty, not only in just Dynasty Cornerstone rankings, but the running back one overall in Dynasty being Najee Harris, based on the ability to play every snap, based on the rookie contract that he has, and the fact that he can go through, play the next 5. But nonetheless, we're not going to dive into that right now. Instead, let's just pay some respect to Jonathan Taylor, the one player that's been able to so far go through and essentially play every single game. He's had over 300 points through the first 14 weeks so far this season, averaging 24 points per game. There's not much to discuss. This was an elite, and I repeat, an elite prospect coming into the NFL. If you're going through, you're looking at his seasons at Wisconsin. He was averaging over 2,000 yards at Wisconsin. He went to Wisconsin and at 18 years old had over 2,000 total yards, and continued that trend as a sophomore and a junior. Then he goes to the NFL Combine. He shows us that he's 5'11", 221 pounds. So he has the size of an NFL running back that's built in a lab to be just a physical specimen. And he is one of the most elite athletes that you're ever going to see at the position. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he has a bulletproof prospect profile. This is someone that you can just fall in love with looking at him. Obviously, the elite level production. He's our Dynasty running back one, and he's going to be the running back one in these Cornerstone rankings. And our running back two in these Cornerstone rankings will be Najee Harris. With Harris, we previously had him at running back one in our Dynasty rankings. And let me speak on the fact that while, yes, there are a couple things wrong with this profile. A, he's going to be 24 this offseason, which of course you don't love to see. But y'all know what we talk about all the time at the running back position in Dynasty is rookie contract, rookie contract, rookie contract, rookie contract. Those running backs like Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara. Once you're on your second deal, count me out. I'm going to reset that clock. I'm going to go trade Alvin Kamara for Javonte Williams and a first-round pick before the season starts. That way we can go through and just have the next running back over the next 4 years. It's going to be tough to do that with those veteran players now because I think more people are catching up to this. But nonetheless, with Najee Harris, I don't really care about the age. What I care about is the fact this is a running back that comes out and dominates in Pittsburgh with the volume that he's had as a rookie. He was a top 5 RB this year, whether you're looking at a points per game basis, whether you're also looking at just total raw points. He himself was able to go through and have over 250 carries. He had over 75 targets as well. So he was playing on every single down. barely any other touches for any other running back in this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I know a lot of people want to say, well, Mason, I mean, who's the quarterback next year? My answer to that is it's not like Big Ben was anything special anyway. It's not like you're going to be missing out a lot there. Now, our next running back 3, will be DAndre Swift. With Swift, someone that we loved coming into the season based on the fact that he was the new Alvin Kamara. He was the new Aaron Jones. He was the running back getting all the valuable touches in his offense. He was going to be getting the targets out of the backfield. He was also going to be getting the usage in the red zone. So when everybody was freaking out saying, oh, Jamal Williams is going to be in a committee, who the hell cares if DAndre Swift is going to be getting all the valuable touches? He did prove to be just that this past season, where he came out and he had 70 targets through 12 weeks. Not only did he have 70 targets through 12 weeks, but at the same time, I mean, he went through and scored 6 touchdowns. And I know, I mean, scoring half a touchdown a game doesn't seem fantastic or anything, but what is fantastic about that is the context that was done in. It was done in a Detroit Lions offense that did not have many touchdowns go around. So our thesis on DAndre Swift being that new age Aaron Jones, that new age Alvin Kamara of a running back that will always be in a committee. DAndre Swift, you look at him, you kind of want him to be in a committee, 5'10", 211 pounds. I mean, give Jamal Williams, who's under contract with guaranteed money this upcoming season, give him the carries between the 20s. I don't really care as long as DAndre Swift is getting the high leverage and the high value touches in that backfield, which he's proven that he is going to. Hopefully, from a Dynasty fantasy football context, he's going to be shut down this season going forward toward 2022, just being fully healthy. Now, what's a little concerning is with Detroit, there's no quarterback prospect at the very top of this draft class like Kyler Murray. I mean, like Trevor Lawrence, even though obviously Lawrence was horrible his rookie season. That is just a clear first pick overall selection. That's going to be able to change the course of your franchise. So Detroit is going to be in a difficult position to go through and get that significant upgrade from Jared Goff. But with the capital that this team has in the offseason, this team has to be slightly better. Now, our next running back 4 will be Javonte Williams. I know some people want to have Javonte Williams over Najee Harris. I get it. Javonte Williams looks fantastic. I mean, with Javonte Williams here, we were higher than him based on consensus in our overall Dynasty rankings coming into the season. To be honest, that's not necessarily because I love Javonte Williams, the talent. It's more so if you want to be a profitable Dynasty player, all you do is running backs on their rookie contract, running backs on their rookie contract, running backs on their rookie contract over and over again. But yeah, he's come out. I mean, he has been fantastic. 155 carries, 743 rushing yards at the time of this recording. I mean, he's also been able to have a role in the receiving game, 44 targets as well. Splitting this backfield 50-50 with Melvin Gordon throughout essentially the entire season. The 1 week that we did not have Melvin Gordon here, Javonte Williams, 23 carries, 9 targets out of the backfield, walking away with damn near 30 fantasy points at the same time. So you see the upside here. Now, and I hate to throw this in the way of Javonte Williams because I do believe he can be a bell cow running back. I believe that he can be someone that turns into an every down player, just getting every single touch out of the backfield when you hopefully have no Melvin Gordon in 2022. But to go through and to just say that Javonte Williams is guaranteed to be that, whereas we've already seen it with Najee Harris, and to go through and rank Javonte Williams over Harris, I think that would be a little bit too aggressive for me. Now, yes, Javonte Williams, he's essentially 2 years younger than Najee Harris. With Javonte Williams, he should also be a bell cow next year. But they have essentially the same contract. I mean, Najee Harris actually has the 5th-year team option as well. Not too worried about the age, as we've already discussed. At the running back position, I care a little bit more about the contract than I do their age. So I'm going to go with the guy that we have seen it before. I don't necessarily think either one of these offenses is that much better than the other unless the unthinkable actually happens, where we've had rumors of Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers going over to Denver in the offseason. And if that happens, Javonte Williams jumps up to being the number 2 player on this list behind Najee Harris. That's a definite possibility. Now, our next running back will be J.K. Dobbins at running back 5. With Dobbins, I mean, we saw it his rookie season coming out, and he was one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL in 2019. Now, keep in mind, if you're looking at that from a yards per carry standpoint, regardless of whatever metric you're looking at to evaluate that, it's in a very specific context, and that he's playing in a backfield that, I mean, you know the running back's going to be just seeing those touches, I mean, at a very efficient mark based on how linebackers have to go through and change the way they play with Lamar Jackson as well in that backfield. But J.K. Dobbins, he had a great prospect profile coming out of Ohio State in that 2020 draft class. I mean, in 2020. He came through and he showed some flashes. He was going in the second round of redraft leagues this past year, and he was a top 10 dynasty running back for me. I think nothing's really changed. I mean, comparing him to someone like Cam Akers, who we'll talk about a little bit later on in the video, not too worried about the injury at all for J.K. Dobbins. I mean, this should be a 9-month injury, and he tore it before the season started. So, like, a perfect example is looking at J.K. Dobbins versus someone like Logan Thomas, right? Because these are both players that tore their ACL. Now, of course, both players are valued wildly different. But if you're asking me, saying, Mason, are you worried about that Logan Thomas injury for his dynasty value? I'm very worried because him tearing his ACL at the very end of the season, that's going to bleed into training camp. He's probably going to miss training camp, probably going to miss the preseason, and probably not going to be fully good to go to start the year. Maybe he finds his way on the PUP list. Well, J.K. Dobbins, on the other hand, tears that ACL before the season starts. I mean, he should be 100% good to go for the preseason at the minimum. I wouldn't be surprised if he is there for training camp. I wouldn't be surprised if he is just the running back one in a very efficient offense in 2021. Now, our next running back on this list will be Clyde EdwardsHelaire at 6. And yes, I get it with Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Not a good running back. No, he's not talented at all. I would argue that Cam Akers is a more talented running back. Travis Etienne's a more talented running back. Maybe Mike, I don't want to say Michael Carter for sure, but you can at least make an argument. And A.J. Dillon as well. The other running backs that are going to be on this list. But with Clyde EdwardsHelaire, what I would also make the argument in is I'm not an NFL general manager. And I can guarantee you right now, no NFL general manager is watching this video. So I'm speaking to a bunch of people playing Dynasty Fantasy Football that we are trying to not build a great team on Madden. We are not trying to build, a great team to put out there on the NFL field. We are trying to score fantasy points. And I hate that we have to just consistently say this time and time again. But I think fantasy football players, Dynasty Fantasy Football players, like, know your role. I mean, fantasy is fantasy. It's in the word. It is fake. And if Clyde EdwardsHelaire can play in that Kansas City Chiefs offense for the next few years, I know the Chiefs were down this year, but still, it's a decent situation with Clyde EdwardsHelaire. He should be fully healthy. And with CEH, a big thing as well is this team doesn't have the capital to make a play in the offseason. So even if we want to say that Clyde EdwardsHelaire isn't a great running back, what the hell are they going to do? I mean, they don't have the draft picks they can just waste on the running back position. They got way bigger needs than that. I mean, they just paid Patrick Mahomes a $500 million contract. You think they're going to be able to go through and sign Melvin Gordon to a large deal? You think they're going to be able to go pursue Leonard Fournette? No, that ain't happening. It's going to be Clyde EdwardsHelaire. It kind of has to be Clyde EdwardsHelaire. And I still think it's a decent situation. Now, our next running back was our Dynasty running back 4 overall. And if you're pulling up our Dynasty rankings over there on Patreon right now, you're going to see he's a lot lower than that. Cam Akers. Now, yes, with Cam Akers, as I said, he was a top 5 Dynasty running back overall, not just Cornerstone rankings, overall rankings before the season started for me. But a torn Achilles is not a torn ACL. A torn Achilles is one of the most devastating injuries any player could ever have. So I know we were just talking about J.K. Dobbins tearing his ACL before the season. I'm not worrying about Dobbins. He's going to come back. He should be good to go before the year starts. With Akers, it's a little bit different. With Cam Akers, this is a running back that if you look at the history of guys coming back from a torn Achilles injury, now keep in mind, yes, a lot of them aren't the same caliber of player as Cam Akers. A lot of them weren't as talented. But that's a list of guys that never make it back to the NFL. And when they do make it back to the NFL, it's the Donta Foreman of the world. I mean, of course, Hook 'em Horns, someone else that I loved. But as soon as Donta Foreman tears his Achilles, he's done. Like, he takes 2 years to come back. And I know he's flashed at the end of the year. And trust me, nobody's more excited about that than I am. But he's not the same running back that he was before. Not only is he not the same running back as he was before, as you can see it on the field, but to go along with this, earlier this year, he was bouncing back and forth between practice squads. I'm not saying Cam Akers is bound to that destiny, but I am saying that if you're just assuming that Akers makes it back from this injury and you put him in your dynasty rankings where you had him previously, like right now, if you're going over looking at best ball leagues, Cam Akers is currently going in the 2nd to 3rd round. Like, you're taking, I can't get that. I think a lot of people are going to be upset with this recovery process from Cam Akers. Trust me, I am as well. I'm a little bit worried that he's not the same running back that he was before, and instead he could be possibly in a committee with Darrell Henderson this next season. Now, speaking of a running back with an injury that is going to be not that great to come back from, let's go over to Travis Etienne. Obviously, with Travis Etienne, he has a considerable amount of red flags here. This is a running back that I'm not going to lie. I mean, y'all know I was drafting Travis Etienne a ton in Dynasty drafts this last offseason. And I honestly want to go through and stand by this because, I mean, with Travis Etienne, I think the process was sound. What we continued to do last rookie draft season is let other people take Kyle Pitts over Najee Harris. Let other people go through, take Jamar Chase over Najee Harris. Like, let other people go through and take positions that aren't as valuable as running back and that take a little bit longer to develop than the running back position. I was looking at Travis Etienne saying he's a good pass catcher. He got the first round draft capital. He has adequate size. He has adequate speed. He checks all the boxes that he is going to get used year one. Not only is he going to get used year one, but this is also a player that if you just look at the trajectory of that profile, and if he gets year one production, then you see the catapult up into that dynasty range of just being an elite level asset like Javonte Williams this past season. Like, I love me some Travis Etienne. Now, a couple things I did not foresee coming. I did not foresee coming that Trevor Lawrence may be bad. Now, I don't want to speak on this too much because obviously I know everybody here is rolling their eyes at that, and I agree with you. I know exactly what you're going to say, and I agree. Urban Meyer, probably the worst coach that has stepped on the NFL field in 5 years. I don't know if we can say that for certain, but Urban Meyer is horrendous. He will be fired this offseason, and that will make this situation better in Jacksonville. But with that being said, while we can try to go through and put all the blame on Urban Meyer, some falls on Trevor Lawrence here. And even if you don't want to say it's not Lawrence's fault, we have seen time and time again, quarterbacks get ruined by bad franchises and horrible head coaches, especially if you come in as a rookie. So while I want to believe that this Jacksonville Jaguars situation is going to get better this next year, it should get better because the bar is as low as possible. If you're a promising head coach, you're going to Jacksonville? Is that really something you're doing right now? Like, while it's easy to say, okay, yeah, let's get rid of Urban Meyer. Let's bring in a good head coach. Good luck finding a good head coach. Good luck doing so. How many are in the NFL right now? I think that we possibly have to be a little worried about this situation. Now, going over our running back 9 will be Michael Carter here. Michael Carter looked great his rookie season. Obviously, they shut him down near the end of the year because they have nothing to play for. But, I mean, you get some highlights. You get some flashes from Michael Carter as well. This was a running back that I was a little pessimistic about given the draft capital he had this past year and what historically that means for a fourth-round player. But, I mean, if you're looking at Michael Carter, I mean, he got up to a single week of having 14 targets out of the backfield, which, I mean, that's kind of why you were drafting him. You were drafting him because he was supposed to be this elite receiving down running back out of UNC. I mean, I think it honestly bodes well for Michael Carter to see Javonte Williams also succeeding in Denver, because then that kind of plays more towards the narrative, okay, well, maybe Michael Carter and Javonte Williams were both top-tier running backs, kind of ate into a little bit of each other's workload back in college. I think that's something that you can safely say. Now, the issue is, of course, with Michael Carter, the draft capital, and I hate to just keep hammering this in, but the difference between Clyde EdwardsHelaire and Michael Carter, for instance, is when that player has the draft capital being a day 3 pick, I'm going to be a lot less willing to just go all in on them. I'm going to be a lot less willing to say, okay, this player is the franchise guy going forward. I mean, of course, everybody's going to be willing to just give him every single start. Like, we don't know. There's going to be a lot changing in New York this offseason. They have a lot of capital to work with. Not only do they have a lot of capital to work with, I mean, let's just go back to a recent example of James Robinson. James Robinson's also a player that doesn't have much team investment. He is fantastic as a rookie. What happens the next year? They draft another running back in the first round. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case in New York. Not saying that at all. But in the case of these guys like Michael Carter, these guys like Elijah Mitchell, I honestly believe that their job security is not as legit as what you would have from that first round draft pick with Clyde EdwardsHelaire, who has the contract. It's boring to say Carter's a better running back than Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Our next running back, Elijah Mitchell, I mean, you could probably say Elijah Mitchell's a better running back than Clyde EdwardsHelaire at the same time. My issue with Elijah Mitchell and why we're going to be a little bit lower on him compared to consensus is the draft cap. I hate to continue to go back to this, but I'm a little bit concerned on what it means with this offseason security. I mean, I don't want to pretend like I'm the guy anymore that let me get out ahead of this. If you would have asked me back in 2018, hey, Mason, this rookie season just played out for Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. what are we doing here? I would have been saying, oh, hell yeah, go through, buy low Royce Freeman, buy low Royce Freeman, buy low Royce Freeman. This is the running back that had a better profile coming into the NFL draft. He got the draft capital over Phil Lindsay. He's the guy going forward. I've learned my lesson. I am not saying that same thing with Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. Now, I'll say Trey Sermon, if he's going around 20 or something, give me all the Trey Sermon in the world. But we're not running out to do that. Still, there's something to be said about historically these players like Elijah Mitchell that go in the 6th round and how teams are willing to move on from them a little bit earlier than they should. With Elijah Mitchell, he looked great his rookie season. But honestly, I think I may have A.J. Dillon over him as well. Like, I don't want to do this. I need to bring up Elijah Mitchell first because I know most people are going to have Elijah Mitchell, ahead of Travis Etienne, ahead of Cam Akers, ahead of Clyde EdwardsHelaire, ahead of A.J. Dillon, maybe even ahead of Michael Carter. Like, a lot of people on this list would have Elijah Mitchell, a Brown running back 5. I can't get there based on what we've historically seen. Even with all that being said, with Elijah Mitchell definitely having his flashes, at the end of the day, he was the running back 20 this season on a points per game basis. I'm not really buying that. And yeah, our last running back on this list, honestly, I would rank him ahead of Elijah Mitchell. Like, I have to be completely honest. I know people like it. A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon shows us the flash. Y'all know this was one of our most drafted players back in that 2020 draft based on the fact you were getting him in the 3rd round of 12-team Superflex rookie drafts. And, he was someone who had that 2nd-round draft capital by the Green Bay Packers in an elite offense. Aaron Jones, obviously, the mold of DAndre Swift, not going to be seeing every snap out of the backfield. And right now, this past week, I'm going to be honest, we're recording this, on December 17th. The past week, we actually saw that A.J. Dillon came out at 15 carries compared to Aaron Jones' 5. Maybe, as the season goes on, A.J. Dillon's able to move up this list. But yeah, thank you all so much for being a part of the flock. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Make sure you go down there, drop that like, leave a comment. Let me know how stupid I am and how Elijah Mitchell needs to be ranked at running back 5. Also, subscribe to the channel only if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football and like to listen to an idiot talking. I think that should be it. Go check out Patreon if you want to see our Dynasty rankings, get Cornerstone ranked, get yada, yada, yada. It's all over there on Patreon. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll be good to see you out with the video tomorrow.